Far Cry 5 is right around the corner, and we're looking forward to it. Look, whether you're really hyped or you think it's too much of the same or too different, that's up for you to decide. We're just here to brief you on 10 things you need to know about the game. Starting off at number 10, let's talk about the setting in case you missed it. Whereas other Far Cry games have taken place in exotic locales, Far Cry 5 goes for rural Hope County, Montana. It's a fictional place with rolling hills, farms, and mountains instead of just jungles and whatnot. This alone seems like one of their biggest selling points of the game, the fact that a Far Cry game is taking place in modern US society. There is some political controversy surrounding the game, but I think either way, it's exciting to play a Far Cry game where you're not just coming across camps and makeshift outposts, now you're coming across homes, trailers, bunkers, gas stations, and convenience stores, and the wilderness at the same time. You get the classic Far Cry gameplay package while also including new stuff that is actually familiar to us Americans. But next at number 9, in terms of story, for those who might worry, Far Cry 5 is actually a new game that doesn't really tie into previous games, so you don't have to have played the previous games to experience this. And like I said, the game takes place in fictional Montana. There, this guy Joseph Seed, a local preacher, has taken power and believes that he is the chosen one that can protect from an inevitable collapse or the end of the world, and he goes ahead and forms this militaristic doomsday cult-like congregation called Project at Eden's Gate. Using violence and coercion, him and his followers are able to build up a small army and seize control of the whole region. There's a brewing armed conflict between Eden's Gate followers and the remaining Hope County residents who are organizing themselves into a resistance movement, and that's where you come in as a new sheriff's deputy on a task force sent to arrest Seed and liberate the entire area. Along with that, you develop relationships with the main story townsfolk like the pastor Jerome and the bar owner Mary, while also building up a rebellion with the rest of the everyday citizens. So good luck dealing with all that. But coming to number 8 and talking about the actual game itself, Far Cry 5 takes a page from Far Cry Primal with the ability to have some animals fight by your side. Guns for hire are still included, where you can have the citizens of Hope County follow you and fight with you, but now there are fangs for hire. There's Boomer, the attack dog that was featured pretty prominently in early trailers, who can distract enemies, seize their weapons, and just straight up kill them. But thanks to recent previews, we've also gotten a look at Cheeseburger, the giant attack grizzly bear. You can pet him and care for him like the animals in Primal, but you can also really use him to wreck shop when you need to. Now next at number 7, I have a few new things worth mentioning real quick so they don't take up multiple points. First, there are new vehicle types like big rigs and muscle cars and tractors that all feature an apparent tweaked control system, so you may find they handle a little bit better this time around. Not only that, you can fly planes. This is a first for the Far Cry series. We did have a gyrocopter in Far Cry 4, but a plane opens up more possibilities with the speed and weaponry and dogfighting. There are also smaller mini games and distractions to keep you busy and pass the time, like fishing, if that's your thing. And not only that, while you're goofing around, some more emergent and random things can happen in the world, giving you things to do like being held up by a cultist or seeing someone in need of saving. Sometimes it's little changes like these that go a long way, so we'll see how it pans out. But next at number 6, it's worth knowing that you can play the whole campaign via co-op online. This is nice because people really missed the story-based co-op when Far Cry Primal released. It's worth pointing out though that there's no local play, but then again, that's just a 2018 in gaming thing sometimes. Not only that, one area of disappointment is that there is no shared progress between players, meaning you hop in one player's game and you're playing through theirs and theirs alone. I'll say Far Cry worlds are really good for co-op chaos, but that's a little bit of a bummer. But next at number 5, let's talk about some fundamental gameplay changes, like the fact that Far Cry 5 no longer has you climbing towers to uncover the map and abilities, and they've also just gotten rid of the minimap completely. This was done to really make exploration more organic and whatnot. And think of something like the Breath of the Wild, a game that the developers have referenced a lot, in the sense that you're kind of always strung along by seeing something else cool over the horizon. Ubisoft's Drew Holmes said the following on the subject: "We really wanted to focus on exploration with a sense of I'm not sure what to do or where to go. The removal of the minimap was so you're not staring at a corner of your screen going, what's new in the world? You got to actually pay attention to the world and observe, and now it's more of a, where do I want to go and what do I want to do today?" To me, it seems like Ubisoft seems to have focused on taking the distraction of towers away so that you're not always just looking up at the next tower constantly, and I think that's a refreshing change. Couple that with the fact that they've gone on record claiming it's the biggest Far Cry open world yet, it seems pretty cool. But next at number 4, another structural thing, your progress is based on the resistance meter, a new system that measures the damage you've done to Eden's Gate and their presence in the region. You fill the meter by completing world activities like taking outposts and guns for hire missions and other activities. Reaching milestones on this meter will have the cult send hunting parties out after you, which will trigger sometimes more linear story missions. Structure is much more character focused here. Think like with Far Cry 4 and who you decide to side with, but on a bigger, more mission structure scale in terms of building relationships with townfolk. Apparently, the resistance meter is an attempt to really rework how you set out to do story missions, making it feel more than just clicking on a map and going, okay, time to do a story mission. If this shakeup works, it could be a really fun and refreshing change, so we'll see. Now at number 3, I'm pretty pumped to point out that you can actually make your own protagonist. For the first time in a Far Cry game, you start your adventure and you create your own dude. It seems like options are pretty simple, but you customize gender and appearance as opposed to just using a preset dude like in the previous games. The developer said the intent was for better immersion and player agency and having more connection to your character. I'm curious to see how this goes though, as Far Cry has always had voiced protagonists who kind of carry along the story. Even if they all weren't the most memorable, they served a purpose nonetheless. And for them to just get rid of that could probably go one way or the other. Either way though, you'll be able to add stuff to your character that you find in the game like hats and stuff, but also stuff you earn through progression in arcade mode as well, which I'll break down right now at number 2. The game has this additional stuff to play with this arcade mode, which is essentially the map editor that has been featured in other Far Cry games, although this time it's a bit more blown out. You can access it in the game world by finding arcade machines, and then you're free to create and share cool maps and creations and stuff, with little single player and multiplayer diversions within them. Things are bigger this time thanks to an emphasis on community and the fact that developers will be also uploading their own creations as well and picking some of the best ones from the community. You're gonna have Far Cry assets to build and work with, as well as stuff taken from Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs at your disposal. It looks pretty exciting, I'm not gonna lie. I'm just curious as to whether or not the mainstream community will latch onto it this time, or if it remains more of a niche hobby. And down to number 1, you probably know how these videos work by now, so let's get the housekeeping out of the way. There are way too many versions of the game. There's the standard version, the deluxe edition, which gets you extra weapons and skins and vehicle skins. Then there's the gold edition that gets you all that, plus the season pass. The season pass, if you don't know, is going pretty nuts with a full-on zombies mode, a whole story-based thing in space on Mars, and even Vietnam. And if you get the season pass, it'll get you a console version of remastered Far Cry 3. Then there's all these other editions. There's the Mondo edition with a Mondo steelbook, the Father's edition that'll get you a statue of Joseph Seed for $160. Then there's the Hope County edition, which is almost $200, and that comes with the Steelbook Gold edition, a special case, a deer trophy, and a real map, and then the soundtrack and all that other digital stuff. PC specs recommend a minimum i5-2400 and an NVIDIA GTX 670, and the recommended is at least a GTX 970 or an R9 290X. And lastly, the game is releasing for PC, PS4, and Xbox One on March 27th, 2018. Those are the things we think you need to know before Far Cry 5 releases very soon. So if you are interested in the game, or maybe you're a longtime Far Cry fan, I'm curious to see what you think down in the comments. Do you think the big change in setting and culture is going to shake up the game enough, or are you one of the people that thinks this is just another reskin? Either way, we should talk about Far Cry 5 and your hopes and dreams for it down in the comments. If you did enjoy this video and maybe learned a thing or two, clicking the like button does help us out, and we do appreciate it. And if you are new, you should subscribe because you're joining an army 4 million strong, and we put out videos every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.